Hey everybody, it's Scott with Shop2It. You are stuck with me both hosting and delivering and trying to keep myself onto a 14-minute time agenda, which is all the heavy lifting Jean normally does. She's having some construction/technical difficulties, so she'll join us near the end in the Q&A portion. And if you hear a little hammering, just recognize this is the New World Order. So if you don't know me, my name is Scott Sanderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Shop2It. And we're going to talk today about how to use impression share data to engage your clients. So the next slide is just pictures of us, which you already have seen and know. You'll see Jean later. But we're just going to take 14 minutes and have a quick conversation about how to use impression share information, how to get it into a conversation with your client, when to do it, where to find impression share data with Shop2It's product, and how to position impression share as an upgrade path. So we'll take 14 minutes and go through that, me droning on, and then we're going to have a roundtable discussion and answer any questions you might have about it. So if you have questions, please just put them in the questions or in the chat section, and Jean will be paying attention to them and ready to go with that at the end. So how do you use impression share information in your conversations? So we've all had the questions, and the big one is always this. It's great. It's like a relic to the past. I want to be able to drive by my billboard and see it, or I need to hear my radio ad. And what we always hear is, I did a search for myself and I did not see my ads. How come? Well, particularly on a small budget campaign, the percentage of time that an ad shows up when it is eligible to, meaning the search query, so the words, meet the target keywords, and the location is a match, is often quite limited. So oftentimes there's way more search than your budget allows you to be shown for. And that's called the impression share. So your budget constraints, your campaign is going on at whatever time of day, it runs out of budget, it's no longer eligible. Google has created a thing called impression share, which shows you quickly and easily, well, how often is that happening? So we're going to walk through that a little bit and see how you and show you how you can use that in a conversation that can be quite constructive with your clients. Okay, so what is impression share and where do we find it? So impression share, as I mentioned earlier, is the percentage of time the ad showed up relative to the percentage of time it could have shown up. So think, I am a pizza place in North New Jersey. I'm targeting North New Jersey. Someone types in the word, where can I find a pepperoni pizza in North New Jersey, which is geo-targeted. They don't actually put that in, but they're on their phone, right? If your impression share is a 5% based on budget constraints, that means 5% of the time your ad is eligible to show to that match. And 95% it doesn't get displayed because your budget is holding it back from showing. Now that's okay, and particularly with what we do, we're trying to get small businesses started in the advertising game, getting guaranteed traffic that's of high quality from Google. So how do we use that to have an upgrade conversation, and where can we find that with Shop2It? So we have added the impression share data to a few different places. So if you recall, we now have, through the Vendasta interface, you can white label our what we call merchant center, which is where you can go in and customize some of the things and see reports, download reports for your client. So the first step is get your logo in there and it will start to show up. Anytime your customer, if you grant them access, logs in, they're going to see the logo on every touch point in our back end. So in our back end, of course, you can see the clicks and the impressions and all that kind of stuff in graphs. You can sort the dates and whatnot. Well, we've added this area called the impression share eligibility due to budget. So in this particular case, this campaign over the target time range that whoever put in is displayed, and it will default to 7 days. I'm not sure what that will come to that in the questions. Christina can check on that maybe for me while we're doing this, what the default display is for the impression share. And it says right here, so your customer can see it themselves. They don't have to necessarily call you and ask you these questions. You can set them up in advance and say, look, you can go in. Yes, it is 7 days default. Thank you, Christina. You can just let them go in here themselves and they can start to ask the questions and see it in real time. In the last trailing 7 days, how often was I eligible based on my budget? In this case, it was 24.77% of the time that it was eligible in the trailing 7 days. And that means 75% of the time that that ad didn't show to that targeted query. So you can have a conversation about saying to them, like, this is how you can decide whether or not there's room for you to increase your budget. So that's where you can see it in the dashboard. And then we also created a report. Again, in the reports, you can pull down a report, select your date range, make sure it's not the report for you, the reseller, which includes the clicks and the cost per click, so the budget spend. You can see this one doesn't show any of that. So there's no questions about the margins that you're adding. And of course, as you know, working with us, we get clicks very inexpensively. So there's lots of room for you to mark up the clicks and still stay within that reasonable amount with your customer. They just can't. I mean, we end up being about 123% cheaper than industry because of how the algorithm is bidding and adjusting all the time. So on the bottom of this, like it's showing you, here's the impressions, so here's the clicks. So we can now see with this customer, hey, over that period, you were shown to 4,800 new engaged targeted buyers in your area, and you got 133 engaged click-throughs to your website. So that's basically, is it working? What am I getting? And then you can tell them whatever you're charging. If you're bundling it, like we always suggest, it's not a separate thing, it's just a portion of it. And you can go down and see in the bottom this impression share loss number, where it's saying 12.5% is the eligible amount that this campaign was being shown for. So 87% of the time, this campaign was not being displayed because your budget is too low. There's more search than there is budget in your campaign. So that's a great way to have a constructive conversation with your client, saying, hey, we should be talking about maybe looking at increasing that campaign budget. So it gives you data and sends you down a direction to help you start that upgrade conversation, whether it's in ads, whether it's in increasing your budget. It could be in, oh, we need to focus on conversion. And if you listen to sort of how our positioning with what we call not front loading, but what we call growing over time, don't sell a website out of the gate, sell traffic and results out of the gate, and then use that traffic and results, things like impression share, to upgrade the entire digital marketing experience with your client, for the ones that are interested and engaged with it. I am not getting conversions. That's because your website's not built for conversion. We should revisit building some landing pages or even a full website. So it allows you to have that conversation knowing that you can drive traffic, that there's lots of search out there, and that you can actually help this business quite a bit. So most of small budget campaigns are quite low, between 5 and 10%. That's very, very common. And it's a great starting point. 95% of the time you are Invisible Pizza Guy in New Jersey, right? Do you want to increase that a little bit? So campaigns have lots and lots of room to grow as required. Again, we think it's incremental. Let's add another couple $100 to the campaign and reevaluate it again in 90 days. Again, our model for you is, if you're going to help small businesses, you can't spend a lot of time babysitting them. They will suck all your profit out by wasting or taking all of your time. So setting them up early, letting them know that in 90 days, you're going to run this report, you're going to not field questions until the 90-day period, and then sit down with them and run whatever audit report. Maybe you're using the snapshot report, maybe you're using whatever you're using to do an audit with a client, and then pull our data and talk about their ad campaign. So again, the software is doing all the work for you. It's just giving you an upgrade path and making sure that you're not spending a bunch of time managing customers, because set that expectation early or they will suck you dry. I lived it, I know it, and that's what we built Shop2it to do, is to run Google ad campaigns that for small budget guys without sucking you, the reseller / agency, dry, while delivering high quality results to the end client. So I think that we can agree that targeted local search advertising is the low-hanging fruit for high-quality traffic in any case. In terms of, the return on ad spend compared to e-commerce, content creation, social media marketing, like I think driving traffic through Google ad campaigns just is a higher returning endeavor. But it certainly sets up the expectation that you should always have a small campaign running for a small business who has a small budget, because it's the thing that keeps it all going. So set it and forget it, review it every 90 days, use impression share to really make sure that you're having that conversation about upgrades with them, and then start to look after whether it's higher ad spends or whether it's in fact other things like other upgrades. Off you go. Email's a great one, but there's no email campaign without a new customer. We're the new customer guys, then email follows. So